Starting a side hustle or part-time art business could totally change your life. As you watch me draw this today, I'm going to give you a complete guide on how to be a total success in whatever art endeavor that you want to pursue. And I know this is going to be the best decision of your life because it's going to totally transform your social, emotional, and financial life just like it did for me. Here's how. Now, for the whole reason that you even want to do this, that you want to start that side hustle, you want to start to gain some income, but let's play a game here too. Have you ever thought about what would it be like if you failed miserably? Now imagine, what would your life be like in 5 years if everything that you wanted totally fell apart? What would life be like for you if you were stuck in that dead-end job, that soul-sucking career that you don't like and that you hate, and you're doing things every single day? And the reason why I bring this up is not to be negative, but I kind of do at the same time because what I think more art entrepreneurs should do is create a negative framework. And what this basically is I want you to detail out every single miserable way that you could just suffer an agonizing defeat, okay? I literally want you to sit there and think about, as you're growing or as you're starting, every single thing that will go wrong. Your computer will die, your tablet's not gonna work anymore. And the reason why this is such an amazingly effective technique is just real simple here, because when you actually lay all that out, when you actually look at the landscape of everything that you think is gonna go catastrophically wrong, it kind of allows you to actually digest it. It allows you to cognitively be aware of that. And therefore, you can decide right then and there, after you've gone ahead and exercised it from your brain, do I really think that's gonna happen? And this might sound silly, but I'm gonna promise you that those of you that are right now not even taking a single step forward to starting this, which you should be doing right now, this is how you're gonna get over your imposter syndrome. This is how you're gonna get past your fears and anxieties. This is how you can just accept the fact that you're just a beginner. And also at the same time, if you understand how you could fail, then you also understand every single action that you will need to take in order to not let yourself fail. And it's a hard pill to swallow to maybe consider that what you've done or what you are doing right now isn't producing what you want to do. And that's why I made this guide for you, so that you will learn everything that you need to do so that that doesn't come true. And then you know the traps to avoid and those negativity traps that are going to rear their ugly heads. And I just want to ask, are you ready to start taking action right now? Because in doing this, you might think that you have to sacrifice too much and you have to sacrifice more than you intended to. But from somebody that's done this and literally built this from the ground up, I can certainly tell you this, friend, the only thing you're going to sacrifice is a life that you never even wanted. Are you ready? Now, what's the worst practice that all artists try and come up with at the beginning that I guarantee will land you in total failure? And when you first start out, you're probably gonna get excited. You're probably gonna watch a bunch of videos where people tell you to do all these different things. You're gonna hear from other professionals that have all of these different businesses running, and they're like doing this and that, and they got a Patreon, and they have a sticker shop, and then they also sell at conventions, and they do freelance work. And naturally, that's when you're gonna have this bright idea, and you're gonna be like, wow, man, if I could have 5 art businesses, I have 5 times the income, passive income, business buzzwords. Wrong. That is a terrible idea. You will totally flop since you have absolutely nothing going for you right now. And that is what I want to warn you against. And instead, let's move into this version. When you're starting out, you need to focus on doing one thing, just one thing. And that's not limiting, it's not narrowing, it's focusing. And just to give you an example here, let's go through this exercise. When you think of Mitsubishi, what do you think of? You think of cars, right? Oh, but wait a minute. You didn't think of electric generators? And you also didn't think of small engines for lawnmowers, did you? Heck no. All right, let's try it again. When you hear Coach, what do you think of? You probably thought of purses, right? But you didn't think of backpacks, you didn't think of shoes, and you didn't think of day planners either, did you? How about Rolex? What do you think about with Rolex? You think of watches. And when you think about your favorite artists, think about what they do, what they're most well known for. That's my point that I want to drive home to you. You cannot ever build a great sustainable art business that's going to be lucrative and that's going to bring you success when you are trying to be some type of art business polygamist and spread your love too thin, because inevitably it's not going to work out for you. And then you also might have been romanced by this idea of, oh, well, if I have more ideas and more income, then I have more opportunities. But let me give you this informed perspective, because I talk to freelancers all the time. And freelancers typically are horribly confused on whatever they want to do. And they're going to be like, well, I have all of these different styles I want to do, and I have all of these different genres I want to do. I have like 4 or 5 different things that I just love to do, Sean. How can you narrow me down? And here's what I want to propose to you instead, friend. Do you want to fail 5 times, or do you want to succeed once? And listen, that's not permanent. You're not ball and chain to that idea, because later in this video, I'm going to show you how you need to expand, but y'all need to just start with one thing. So what's your one thing? Now, when you're starting your business too, you naturally started with a dream, and it was a big dream, and we love to dream, don't you? However, though, I want to let you know how your dreams have also conditioned you to learn how to fail and be okay with it. Because just to be real with you, a dream without a plan is just a recipe for disaster. Now, when you're concocting your plan right there, here are the essential components with it. It needs to have a time frame, it needs to have milestones, and this is a big one, needs to be totally focused on specific actions that only you can take. So let me give you 2 examples, a positive and a negative. Let's say in the first one here, here's a great version of a goal. So by the end of 2024, I want to finish my 28-page first edition of my comic. That's a great goal. It has a very specific time frame, has very specific milestones with it, and also is solely focused on things that only I can do. So then, what do you do from there? That's a big, huge goal, right? So this is also where people totally collapse, because if you've never heard this before, your brain cannot handle these big, huge goals. So therefore, engage in what I like to do, which is called task vomit, in which case what you're gonna do is you're gonna itemize every single thing that you are gonna have to do in order to hit that goal. And you can just go ahead and do it in one of 2 ways. You can either put it as like a mind map, you put them on sticky notes if you're like a type B person, if you're a type A person, just go ahead and just write them all out, little check boxes in like a Google Doc or something, and then check them off as you go. And here's how I would specifically look at this. I would look at it, what can I do first off today? What can I do right now? Can I go gather resources? Can I gather references? Can I get ideas for what I want it to look like? Can I go ahead and make some templates for what I want my pages to be like? Then I would go ahead and look at, what do I need to do this week in the next 7 days? So do I need to go ahead and complete all my references, complete all my templates, gather everything I need to do, and then sketch out the first couple pages? And then I would look at, what do I need to do in the next month? So I need to go ahead and I need to sketch out 8 pages. And then you just continue that with all tasks until you are completely done with it. And then you make sure you hold yourself accountable and you actually do the thing, but make sure you're using really concise language just to make it simple for yourself and your brain. Now, let me give you a really terrible example. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, I've done this before. You might be thinking, I wanna monetize my YouTube channel. I've said that gem before. Terrible idea. This is a bad goal. Here's why. It's not precise, it's not specific, and it's not saying anything that you can actually control in there. There are so many extraneous variables that are completely outside your locus of control, and therefore you're gonna feel like a failure if you don't actually monetize your channel by X amount of days. And how long is that gonna take you? Is it gonna take a day, a month, a year? Is it gonna take you 5 years? Here's a better way to do that, and I guarantee you'll actually hit that goal if you do it like this. If your goal instead was, I wanna post YouTube content once a week consistently for an entire year, and I'm gonna improve one thing in every single video I made. By the way, that's exactly what I did to get to where I currently am right now. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And on that note too, I just wanna let you know this, that if your plan for your art business doesn't span 2 to 5 years, your dream and your goals just aren't that big enough. So don't just limit yourself to only what do I need to get done in the next month or even in the next year. Be more expansive, because unless you plan on going anywhere, I think that you've got a lot of room to grow and dream, don't you? Doesn't that sound so much better? Now, the next most important thing you're gonna have to do if you really wanna make it in this and you wanna be a total success is make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, y'all, because you're never gonna hear more authentic resources and more actionable content than right here. And if this is helping you, please make sure you share it with somebody that you know and love. And hey, look, maybe you've been trying this for a while and you know this stuff already, but you just can't implement it. And that's where my one-on-one art mentorship comes into play. Listen, this is not a course, it's not a class, it's me and you working one-on-one to accomplish the things that you want to do at the pace you want to do it. I've helped people just like you totally supercharge their art business and be able to achieve everything that they didn't think they'd be able to do for years in a matter of months. And if that sounds like you, then go ahead and check out the link in my description, fill out the form, and I'll reach out to you soon. And as you're starting, make sure you're aware of this too. Now, can I give you some fresh squeezed honesty this morning? And I just want to let you know this, and this comes from my heart because I've been there too and I've fought against this reality, but here's what it is, friend, is that what you're doing right now and what you have done is not enough. Because otherwise you wouldn't be watching this, would you? And listen, I'm not saying you're not trying. I'm not saying that you're not being hard on yourself already. I'm not saying that you are not spending time doing the things that you want. The honest reality is that your current results are the product of your current efforts, and you cannot blame anything else other than that. And one of the main things that I see as a problem for a lot of new art entrepreneurs in starting their businesses and building side hustles and into something greater and expanding is that they don't treat their business like it's a business. And if you want to succeed, you have to treat your business as such and not a hobby. This is not something that you do just when you feel like it. This is not something you do on a whim. This is not something that you are going to stick with for just a short period of time, nor is it something that you are only going to do when you just feel like it. And on that note, don't get caught up in the emotions that are going to come to you when you're building your business, because you're going to feel everything. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel despair. You're going to feel doubt. And listen, everything will just come spilling out as you're growing and as you're starting from absolutely nothing, just like I did. But something I want to let you know is that your emotions are completely worthless to building your business. All right. And I don't mean that you shouldn't pay attention to your emotional state, but you're going to feel seduced by all your negative emotions and all your emotions that don't serve you. The results that you get, they're hard won, and it's going to be tough sometimes on you, and sometimes it's going to be really easy. And discomfort is that price of growth for you, my friend. If you're not feeling discomfort, then I'm just going to be honest with you, you're probably not doing enough, and you're definitely not growing enough as you could, as I believe that you do have the potential to. And let me just be perfectly clear with you. When you're building your business and when you're trying to do everything that you need to do and all the tasks you're going to have to do, it will suck at times. It will totally suck. I'm not going to sugarcoat that whatsoever. But let me offer you it another way. Does that sucking right then and there in that moment and doing those things suck more or less than the thought of you completely not living up to your potential? Which one sucks more? Because I'm not gonna lie, even though I've got a lot of good things going for my business, there are some things I really don't like. I really don't like having to send loads of emails. I answer every single YouTube comment that comes to me. Editing videos takes an enormous amount of time. Planning my content also takes a lot of time too. Shooting that content takes time. And staying on schedule with all my freelance work. And all of that, just gonna be real, like if I look at it as just a list, it sucks. But it sucks a whole lot less than watching my business and watching my potential and watching my future totally burn to the ground. And the number one thing that I want to urge you to do is to just constantly take action. Even if it's not the right action, even if it's a flawed action, it's still moving the needle forward and you're still getting something that you can learn from it. And we'll talk more about that later on in the video. But y'all, you really have to just cross this dividing line. Do you want to be a media consumer or media creator? And once you pick a lane there, that's what's gonna propel you forward to success that you want. Can you do that? For this next tip, I wanna start off by asking you, why do artists have the most toxic relationship with time? And why is this what I identify to be one of the biggest reasons that more artists don't make it with their business? Now let's envision this together, y'all. What if you had 104 extra days throughout the year to build your business, to work on your art, to improve everything that you're doing? What if you had 104 days that you could just wholly focus on everything you need to do. Well, the good news is that that's how many days in just weekends alone that you have in an entire calendar year. And what that accumulates into is roughly 2,500 hours. And that's not even counting the time that you get off your 9-to-5 job as well. So let me ask you this. Why are you saying to yourself that you have no time, that you have absolutely no ability to do the things that you want to do, or you're feeling like you're too pressed to do the things that you actually do want to accomplish? Now, obviously, you got to take time for basic survival. Obviously, you have to take time for your appointments and all that. But I want you to just consider how much time you're pouring into those things. Things that you hate, things that will not allow you to grow, things that will make someone else richer, and things too that are going to help you accomplish somebody else's dream and not your own. And then too, how sacred do you treat the time in doing those things that you absolutely can't stand? For going to work, for doing chores, from making it to appointments, from just doing the tasks of daily living, the things that you hate and you don't actually want to do, and the things that don't bring you fulfillment. You will treat that with so much more severity in making sure that you're on time and that those things are accomplished, and you will not settle for it. But then somehow, when it comes time for you to be released from that, you can't muster up the energy and time to actually do something that's going to be amazing for you. And this is something that's actually taught to us, so it's something that we have to unteach ourselves, because literally we are taught from a young age to be in servitude to other people. And you need to break free of that cycle and learn that you can't take those tasks, those servitude tasks, with more seriousness than your own goals. And so I just want to say this with absolute love, because I've had to wrestle against this too. And if you want to do anything with your life and your art goals, then this is one thing you have to realize, is that you do not have a shortage on time, but what you actually have is a shortage on caring about how you're doing that. And every single time that you say to yourself, I don't have time, there's two things you need to consider if you're not being successful with your business, which is that number one, how are you using that time? Because if you're not using that time with focus and attention, it's not effective. And number two, do I have to use more time? And I guarantee you, one of those two is exactly what you need. Some of y'all might say that you're drawing for 6 hours a day, but it's 6 hours of distracted drawing while you're watching TV and answering your phone and also chatting on Discord. That's not focused. And then some of you just need a better metric for actually committing to your goals and evaluating them properly. So for example, I talk to freelancers all the time and they're like, Sean, this whole freelance thing didn't work for me. I totally sucked at it and I totally burned out from it. I'm like, okay, cool. So what did you do? And they're like, well, I posted on Reddit a couple times, just like for 2 weeks. Or, oh, well, I post once this month, a couple times that month here, look for clients like, I don't know, once every 3 weeks. Or if you're building a YouTube channel, they just like expect this explosion within days or months. And the issue comes down to, usually when you're focusing on your time, is that you just honestly have piss poor metrics for actually measuring what is an effective system for measuring your own success. And one thing that I found is that it's much better for you to be okay with things not happening right away. For example, it's taken me 11 years to get to exactly where I am in my freelance business. And I started out with the same struggles that y'all are too. It's taken me 3.5 years to build my YouTube channel to what it is. And it's taken me over a year to get my Discord server as well to grow to the numbers that I want. It took me about 6 years in teaching art to feel like I was totally comfortable in what I was doing and in my practices. All of these, they were built hard and they were built very slow. And what I want to encourage you instead is to be okay with the passage of time, because I just want to ask you this. Do you plan on dying in the next 2 to 5 years? Because listen, time's going to go by and it doesn't care about your plan or your goals, but you should. Now, I want to give you a really hot take, and I'm going to defy some of the most popular art business advice that you've ever heard, and I hear this way too often. I'm going to tell you this is going to end you in miserable failure, my friend. So here's how you want to avoid that, and I want to ask you this. How many different income sources are you trying to manage right now? Because if you're just starting out, trying to manage more than one of them is just not going to work. What I'm specifically talking about is I hear this advice all the time to diversify your income. Like you're just gonna get a little bit from a whole bunch of ponds, right? I want to pose this idea for you based on my evidence and based on what I've seen from so many freelancers and so many excited art entrepreneurs just like you to stop casting a wide net and why it's an absolutely terrible, wrong approach. And the main reason is because this is only for a certain amount of time once you have hit a certain stride in your art business. And this is really popularized. I see this all the time on YouTube. I see this all the times in articles for how you should build an art business. And what I want to let you know is that that advice tends to come from people on high, but you're down here. You're not there yet, okay? And I'm not speaking down to you like you're always gonna be here. You're gonna be up here someday too if you keep at it. And I've seen this advice popularized from YouTubers and big time business gurus. But here's what they have that you don't. They have one win and you don't. Now look, I promised you that I told you you could build into this though, right? Here's what you wanna do. Stop casting a wide net and instead build a funnel. Okay, so let me give you my example of how I did this. So the first thing I ever did in my art career was I became an art teacher. Went to school for it, got a job in it, started out part-time, built it to full-time. A couple years in, I said, hey, look, I really wanna make more art and I wanna offer my services to clients because I've been leveling up my skills the whole time. And so I put myself out there to freelance. And then I did that for some years. And then I started a YouTube channel where I teach people how to build their business. And then from there, I opened up my private art mentorship program, where again, I work one-on-one with people who are really excited and really serious and passionate about what they want to do. And I teach them how to build their art and build their business together. Everything that I just explained came from one singular source. I am somebody who likes to teach and I'm somebody that loves to make art. It all has one connective thread. And that's what I see a lot of people try and do incorrectly. And they try and create a business here and an idea here and a comic here and then pins over here and then fan art up over here and hope that somehow it's gonna sell when really you're just working distracted. So when you're first starting out, my friend, I wanna advise you on this. Stop casting a wide net. Ditch that net, toss it, and just grab yourself and forge yourself a really big, sharp spear, because that's how you're gonna harpoon success. Now, as you're growing and you're scaling, or even when you're starting, you could experience this too. A common concern that I tend to see people have, and I wanna ask you is, what do you think you're gonna forget about as you are building your business? And I typically see this a lot when I talk to people who are interested in my mentorship program. And I'll ask them like, hey, so what do you see as a challenge in your art? Or what's difficult for you? What do you want to learn? What do you want to get better at? And a lot of people typically tell me something to the effect of like, oh, I think my art's great. I think my art's good enough. I think it's good. I don't need help with that. I need help with sales. I need help with marketing. I need help with something else related to it. And a part of me just dies hearing that a little bit because I think that we lose focus. Your art is the product, your art is the beginning, and your art is also the future. And one thing I want to continue to do and challenge yourself on is this, is that you must focus on continuous improvement of your craft as you are moving along, because it is so easy to just get lost in the minutia of tasks associated with actually running your art business and growing your art business that you lose sight of what you're going to do. And my hot take on a lot of people right now that are really dismayed and upset about AI art stealing their art business is that most artists only push themselves to develop the skills necessary to which they can monetize it, and then they just drop off and die. And I want to challenge you just to reconsider this, is that you yourself as an artist, you're an ever-growing person, you're always changing, and therefore your art should too. And if it's not, then you're not evolving. And if you've never heard this before, there's a really great quote I like, is that if you're not green and growing, then you're dead and dying. And the big thing that I want to encourage you to do is that even, yes, if you're heavily enveloped in an art business like I am with my freelance work, is that I always try and find ways to find ownership. And like, just for example, just give yourself mini challenges in everything you want to do, okay? So like, for example, in my freelance work, I'll be like, oh, I've never done that lighting before. I've never done a character like that before. I've never done a character with that ethnicity before. I've never done a background like that before. I've never used this technique before. You can definitely find little ways for you to definitely challenge yourself and level up your craft with everything that you do if you're actually trying and you're focused on trying to do it. And the best thing is that like my customers, my clients, they love to be a part of that. They can literally see the growth as I've been working with people for years. And I want to ask you this, like, what if your clients and your customers could be a part of that journey with you? Because it's really great for you to go on that journey with somebody else instead of just going alone. You ever consider that? Now, I want to let you know how building an art business is much like the bond between Goku and Vegeta. And if you're a Dragon Ball fan, or at least you're familiar with it, you might know this, but they start off highly adversarial, and then they started to learn that they are the only two people capable of pushing each other to extreme limits and into being the person that they want to be. And you've got somebody in your life right now who's capable of doing that, but you probably are fighting them too much to notice it. And I want to let you know why the best friend that you'll ever have is also the biggest boogeyman, and I'm talking about failure. Now, have you ever completely flopped on something? Maybe you had no clients, you had no sales. Have you ever failed an idea or a promise that you had? Maybe you tried to do this whole art business thing before and it just didn't take off. Contrary to what you think, I say good. That is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. And you're not incapable of achieving what you want to achieve, friend. And I say that because not achieving your desired effect shouldn't dismay you, and it shouldn't disrupt your dreams and goals. But instead, it should give you pause to reflect back on it. And I've learned through all my experiences how failure is the best teacher I've ever had. And I'm gonna give you some examples right now of why I'm glad that I failed at a lot of things. For example, I've made every single commission mistake that you can make in freelancing, and that's why I am now able to give you videos on what to do and what will actually produce the results you want. For my first year of my YouTube channel, I had practically no views on this thing. And I would launch videos and get like 15 views, and 5 of them were for me just playing the video on repeat. But because of that, I learned what I actually needed to do to get the audience that I could help and I could address, just like you. I've had clients tell me no. I've had clients reject my pitch. I've had clients tell me that my art isn't good enough. But thanks to all that, I learned how to talk to them. I learned how to have a good negotiation strategy, and I learned what practices work best and what don't. And I learned what I need to improve in my art. In my personal life too, I was rejected by girls all throughout high school, okay? But then from that, I also kind of learned why it's better to wait for the right one. I also completely failed at social media growth. You'll not find any of my social media platforms have a lot of people. The best news about that is that I can definitely teach you on how to do it without social media as well. And the issue with the opposite of this is that success is definitely what you want, right? However though, it's intoxicating, it's addicting, but it's also completely blinding, and it teaches you nothing. Now, failure, on the other hand, it gives you room for expansion. It gives you room for pause. It gives you room to pivot and reconsider. So I want to advise you on as this friend is to fail often, fail fast, fail hard, but then use that knowledge to pivot into better practices, into greener pastures. And learn how you can and need to befriend failure in order to make this happen for you. Because if you don't expect failure, you can expect to fail. Now, as you're growing your business and you're taking your time as outlined in this video, I want to let you know that you are going to have absolutely no shortage of amazing reasons why you absolutely won't make it, and why you should give up, and why you should stop, and why you should slow down, or why you should pause. And I want to let you know right now that complacency is the sweetest little temptress that will always lull you into oblivion. And one thing that no art business owner expects is how inevitable it is that every single doubt, fear, anxiety, and reason that you have to quit is going to be unearthed. And not many people talk about this, but I want to share this with you because I've learned it, is that your business will only grow to the extent in which you have grown as a person. And this is typically when we start to get wrapped up in what reasons and doubts and anxieties do you have to not proceed forward, to not start, or to not grow, or to not continue. And you're going to be like, well, I have imposter syndrome. What do I do about it? You know what? You're right. You are an imposter because you haven't done anything yet and you haven't achieved what you want to. So therefore you perceive yourself as an imposter. Are you doubtful of it? That's true too, because honestly, that's natural that you should feel that way because you haven't done anything to make yourself confident in the fact that you are actually capable of it. Do you feel lazy? Well, you are. You know why? Because of the fact that you recognize that there's time in which you have that you're not utilizing in order to be the type of person and do the type of things that you want to do. And I'm not putting you down, but I'm just helping you realize right now that all of these things, they're not unique to you and they're not special to you, friend. They're something that we all experience as humans as part of just going through this human condition and building your business. These things are going to come up, and what you have to do is not succumb to them. And let me ask you this, do you feel like you were somehow held back or that you're currently being held back? Because realistically, you are, I validate that. But it's not anything real, it's only things that you imagine. And this just brings up the big reason that you actually have to quit and what actually is the genesis of that. And your biggest adversary in building an art business is resistance and avoidant behavior. And let me just prove this to you. You know exactly what you have to do. It's not a secret. If I said to you, you were guaranteed to have $1 million in the next 10 years, what would you do? And you would outline every single step. But the issue is that you're not doing it because you're being seduced by everything else that you're doing and avoiding your task for. And this just jumps into the fact that you also need to avoid thinking the way or imagining that there is actually a physical blockade to your success or doing the things that you need to do. And what I want to advise you with, you have to learn how to learn with yourself, not against yourself. Because I want to clarify with you, there's nothing holding you back that you are not in control of. Doesn't matter what race you are, doesn't matter what socioeconomic class you are, doesn't matter about your education level or lack thereof one, doesn't matter what your mental health state is, doesn't matter what your diagnosis is. And I say all that with complete confidence because I guarantee you that somewhere in the world right now, there are a multitude of people struggling with a worse version of what you're going through, with worse circumstances than what you are currently experiencing, who started there and were able to rise out of it. So therefore, the only thing that's keeping you held back is you and your perception and the care in which you put into defending those. And I've had to go through this too, and I had to break myself out of this victim mentality that because I wasn't born rich and I never got the best art teachers and I never got the best art education and I didn't have access to resources that would allow me to propel myself to the future, like when I watch like Ross Tran or something like that. But that doesn't matter. That's what I learned. And I want to impart that to you too, friends, so that you can do it too. Honestly, nobody cares. And you need to hear that. Your business doesn't care, your customers doesn't care, your artwork doesn't care. The only person that cares is you. And therefore I want to ask, why should you care? Look, all of those things I said, they're real. You got a diagnosis, you got ADHD, you're missing limbs, you're in extreme poverty. All of that is real. I validate that. So you can't work against it, you gotta work with it, because the worst prisons you'll ever construct are the ones that you construct in your mind, where you're gonna give yourself rules and yourself restrictions and set the limits on what you think you can or can't do. So the main culprit of your creativity and of your future is always going to be this enemy of resistance. And to overcome resistance, you gotta do this. You have to identify your imagined limits. You must recognize what those triggers are that make you think that way, and also maybe who in your life is promoting that, and then move away from those avoidant behaviors that are taking you away from the future that you want and you deserve. And the thing I've learned that you must succeed in if you actually want to succeed in your art business is that your art business will never outgrow your personal development. And everything that you're going through right now, every single extreme circumstance, every single reason you have to fail or stop and not continue, could and should be your reason to succeed if you just shift your perspective. Have you ever considered that? Now, the next thing you want to know is that most artists are running with rookies. And unfortunately, I've seen the same dull, ineffective practices for years, and they're still perpetuated for some weird reason. And artists are still failing, but they're still doing it. And because that's still happening, I made this video right here. It's gonna let you know the absolute worst mistakes you can ever make in your art business. Go check it out, and if this helped you, share with somebody that you know.